Welcome to Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged, a podcast for all women with a creative business who want to learn more about how to make money doing something they love. I'm Joanne Pearce, a female entrepreneur myself, 15 years experience running my own handmade stationery business, Vintage Twee. I'm an established seller on two of the biggest handmade marketplaces, so I've got a whole load of advice to share about how to start and run your own successful creative business. I'm also a wife and a mother, so I get the struggles of trying to do it all while you're raising a family. It's hard. Alongside running Vintage Twee, I'm also a mentor for other women like me who desperately want to work for themselves but just need that bit of support to get going and get their business dream off the ground. I'm a friendly northerner, I'm open and honest with a huge heart and a real fighting spirit, and I'm living proof that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to, even in the face of adversity. This podcast celebrates the selflessness, strength, and resilience of women in business. So if you're ready to ditch the 9 to 5 and learn how to start your own successful creative business, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. Thank you for pressing play. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If it's your first time listening, I better make a good one, eh? And it is, I promise. I've been looking forward to recording this one because I think it's one you're going to all be able to relate to. As business people, yes, but also just as human beings. So today we're talking all about willpower and why it is so crucial for us as entrepreneurs. And like I said, it's really just an interesting topic. So whether you're a small business owner or not, because willpower plays such an important role in whether or not you achieve your goals. And that can be starting your own business, or it could be other things like maybe getting healthy, giving up alcohol, spending more time with family, or saving for a holiday. I don't know, whatever it is you want to achieve. The success of achieving it is very much dependent on that one thing that we all wrestle with when temptation gets in the way, and that's our willpower. Now, I actually decided on this topic, I thought it'd be perfect to talk about because it's January, right? And we're all full of good intentions. We were New Year resolutions. We've got this renewed energy to achieve all these goals that we said in December that we're going to do, whilst we were stuffing our faces with quality streets and guzzling Baileys like there's no tomorrow. And me and my husband were no different. Yeah, we set ourselves some goals at the beginning of this month to change some really bad habits that we got into during the course of the shit show that was 2024, right? Regular takeaways, that was one. Too much alcohol, that was another. Not enough exercise, the usual ones that you get a lot of people setting themselves as a New Year resolution, okay? And we're no different. I want to lose the weight that I put on after my operation last year because I couldn't move the way that I normally would for a long time. But of course, there was nothing wrong with my mouth, so I just kept eating and putting weight on. And now I feel unfit. I can't get in my jeans, my back and my knees hurt. And I definitely struggle with energy levels like past 3 p.m. without a doubt, which always coincides with when Eden comes home from school. And of course, she wants to play, and I'm usually too knackered after an early start, and a day running two businesses. So I end up feeling guilty. In fact, I've come up with some games, right? You'll like this. All the mothers out there listening with young children. Some games that actually require you to lie down. Like you've got things like doctors and dentists. You can make a chair or a bed, lie in it, let your kid go wild, checking your teeth, checking you over. Or a recent one that my friend came up with, which I think is absolutely genius, right? She pretends that she's a pizza and she lies on the floor and she says to her kids, right, you've got to put toppings on me. I'm going to lie here. You've got to go away and you've got to either draw some toppings and you've got to cut them out and stick them on me. Yeah, that's brilliant. She gets at least like 15, 20 minutes of horizontal time where they don't actually ask you to get up. It's genius, right? But anyway, me and my husband, we both agreed to give up alcohol for January at least. Now, for me, it's not really an issue. Like, I can take or leave it. I like a glass of wine at weekends, but I don't really miss it if I can't have it. It's not like, for me, chocolate or bread. Like, these are my downfalls, and I really struggle giving those up. But my husband, right? So his is alcohol. And he is renowned for having the worst willpower. Like, he has got absolutely no level of self control when it comes to alcohol, anyway. And he'll be the first to admit it. So, I'll give you an example, right? We agreed to give up alcohol. But of course, we couldn't start it on the 1st of January. Because, it's New Year's Day, isn't it? It's always nice to have a little toast to the new year in the hope that it's not going to be as shit as the last one. But, then we had the Christmas alcohol to sort of get rid of, like you do, finish off the Baileys, get rid of the cherry liqueurs that someone always buys you. So actually, we didn't start our dry January until Monday, the 6th of January. It's a good date, it's a Monday, like to start goals on a Monday. Anyway, Dave called me on his way back from work one day and he said to me, "Oh, I'm just calling into the co-op. I'm just going to grab some stuff for tea. I just wondered, are we still doing dry January?" Now, I wouldn't mind if he'd made this call to me, let's say on the last day or even the last week of January. But no, we gave up on the Monday, and this phone call was on the Wednesday, 2 days later. I mean, come on, Dave, it was a bit ridiculous. Where's your willpower? Totally non existent. He couldn't do it. No, he's totally failed dry January now, as have I. Only as of last night, had a little cheeky rum. But he's had quite a few major slip ups. And his willpower didn't even put up a fight. Now, I don't know what your willpower's like. Mine generally is pretty good. If I want to do something, doesn't matter what it is, I'll do it. I might have the occasional stumble, like I said, with the rum last night, or the other day I shoved a hunk of sourdough bread into my mouth, like with desperation, because I just really needed to taste it. But other than that, on the whole, I'm pretty good at sticking to my goals, right? If I really, truly want them. And that's the key. That's what Dave said to me. They said, if I really wanted to do it, I would. So it turns out he doesn't really want to give up alcohol, obviously. But that is one of the most important factors in whether or not your willpower to achieve that goal is going to be strong enough to get past the distractions and the temptations that are going to try and knock you off course. Because willpower is so crucial for entrepreneurs. Like, we need an excellent amount of willpower to help us move towards our goals and make consistent progress. Unlike, I don't know, say when you work for yourself, you have people there, don't you? Telling you what to do generally, setting you timescales, setting you tasks that you need to complete. Well, we don't have that as entrepreneurs, and we have to do it ourselves. So we have got to be able to resist these distractions that are going to come along and they're going to try and derail our business growth. Willpower is the driving force behind us turning our ideas into actions, maintaining discipline and just persevering. Like, all those things are essential for long-term success and whether or not you make it as a self-employed business owner. So this episode is going to be a willpower workshop, right? You're going to learn some practical ways that you can boost your willpower. If you're a bit like my Dave and you struggle sticking to your goals despite the best of intentions. And I'm going to be sharing some relatable stories and examples from my own experience as a small business owner about the things that I've come across that almost certainly try to derail us from our goals. And one of which you've probably have heard about, is the shiny object syndrome. In case anyone else suffers from that debilitating condition that seems to affect only the creative population, we're going to talk about it shortly. And in addition to these things, there's going to be a really interesting sprinkle of science just to help you understand how willpower actually works, with some examples of real life experiments that have been done to help show us why people give up on goals and what we can do about it so that it doesn't happen to us. Okay, so let's talk some science here, right? Let's talk about one of the most famous studies that has been done on willpower. And this takes me right back to the days of my psychology degree. I absolutely love this kind of stuff. It's called the marshmallow experiment, and it was done in the 1970s. Okay, so imagine this, right? You're a kid, and the researcher puts a marshmallow in front of you. Now, you've got two choices, right? You can either eat the marshmallow now, or if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, then the researcher will give you another marshmallow. So you're going to have two. Now, I'm telling you, if this was me as an adult, never mind a kid, given this choice, I know what I would do. Like, I'm not waiting 15 minutes to eat the bloody marshmallow. I loathe them. Like, I'm the sort of person that goes into Home Bargains and buy those flumps, that you used to have when you were little, and the packet is open before I've even left the shop. I've had at least 3 or 4, before I even got in the car. I can't help myself. Absolutely love them. They're my weakness. But anyway, in the actual experiment, some kids, they ate the marshmallow straight away. Me. And others waited. Now, here's the amazing part, right? So the kids that delayed that gratification and waited the 15 minutes to eat the marshmallow, they ended up doing better in life. So these kids, they were monitored and followed up throughout their lives into adulthood. And the researchers found that the ones who showed more willpower and they restricted themselves from eating that first marshmallow, they had higher test scores, they had better jobs, they had better emotional regulation, and they even had healthier relationships. Like, how mad is that? The researchers found this link between the amount of willpower that a person has and their outcomes in life. So, what does that mean for us as entrepreneurs? Well, it's a reminder, first of all, that holding out for longer term rewards, like building a solid business of your very own, it actually pays off way more than chasing some short term wins. Let's say not sticking to your plans and goals, instead getting sidetracked by other things that are going to tempt you off your path. Another experiment that was done on willpower was by a guy called Roy Baumeister, okay? And he showed through his findings that willpower works a bit like a muscle that needs strengthening in order for it to withstand the stresses and the strains of day-to-day decisions in life. So you've got to train it or it's going to get tired. So Baumeister says that if you overuse this muscle, this willpower, it results in having less self control later on. So your willpower becomes non existent. You're knackered. So instead of working on your business or going on the exercise bike or going to the gym or whatever, you end up binging Netflix and eating junk food at the end of the day, right? You're spending all day making decisions: what to wear, what to eat, where to go, what to do with the kids after school, this weekend. You end up just wearing your mind out. And Baumeister calls this decision fatigue. When we get decision fatigue, we have much less willpower. We're tired of thinking. We're much more likely to give in to the things that we're trying not to do. Our willpower is weakened. Now, as business owners, decision fatigue is a real thing, right? And it can really affect our willpower to stick to our goals and achieve them. So we need to be thinking, how can we help ourselves? We need to be simplifying our day as much as possible so that our brain isn't tired by the end of it. We've got to do things like plan ahead, automate tasks where you can, give that willpower muscle the chance to strengthen so that then you can call on it when you really need it. And it's hard, isn't it? Balancing it all. You've got your work life, your personal life. It all drains our mental energy. Like, I am knackered by the end of the day. I can't speak usually after 8 p.m. By the time Eden's in bed, I'm done. All I want to do is sit on the sofa and just relax. But we have to make sure that our willpower is still there and it's still functioning at the end of the day, because that's when we're going to need it. We're going to need it to stop us opening that bottle of wine and sticking Netflix on and doing the thing that you plan to do to move your business forward instead. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes we all need and we deserve that wine and a Netflix binge, come on. But the reality is we can't do that all the time if we want to achieve our goals. So it's getting the balance, whether that's getting fitter and healthier or starting or growing a business. We have to have the willpower there, ready, step away from the wine and the TV remote, and then do something that's going to move us towards our goal. Put it this way, right? If I didn't have the willpower to dedicate 2 to 3 nights a week to my podcast, it wouldn't exist. Like, simple as that, it would not exist. I do all of my research and I write all my notes for each episode at night after 8:30, 9 p.m. when Eden's in bed. Like, I don't have the time in the day with 2 businesses and the limited time that I'm working between school hours. I just can't do it, so I have to do it in the evenings. So I've got to exercise that willpower on those nights that I put aside to work on my podcast and do it. And, it's paying off. Like, it's growing. The podcast is moving in the right direction and growing in listeners. It's brilliant. Like, you've got to have a lot of willpower when you're a small business owner because your future depends on it. So, why does our willpower often fail us? And why do we end up giving in to temptation and just not achieving our goals? It just seems too easy sometimes, doesn't it? Well, we already mentioned the fact that we can use up too much mental energy in the day, which leaves us with less self control and the likelihood that we're not going to do what we set out to do. But what else gets in the way of us completing our goals? What else is reducing the amount of willpower that we've got to see something through? Well, this failure to exercise our willpower is often down actually to some common goal setting mistakes. So if you make these mistakes that I'm going to tell you about right now, you're unlikely to have the willpower to see your goals through to the end. I'm not saying that you won't, but the more of these that you identify with, the less chance you've got of seeing your goals through. Okay, the first one is you're setting yourself vague goals. You don't really know what you want to achieve. So maybe you're saying stuff like, oh, okay, by the end of this year, I would definitely like to be running a successful business. Okay, that's great. Yeah, don't we all? But there's no mention there of how you're going to do that in that statement. Like there's no actual specific goal, no matter how small, doesn't matter, but there's no mention that indicates how you're going to do that. So actually, the likelihood is you're not going to do it. Now, on the other hand, you might be setting yourself overly ambitious goals because that's no good either. That's the second mistake people make. So you could be saying something like, by the end of this year, I want to be turning over £1 million and I want to be selling my work in 5 major retail outlets in 3 different countries. Right now, I'm an optimist, especially when it comes to business, at least. And I don't believe in putting a ceiling on your ultimate dreams. Definitely got to say that. But you do have to be realistic because if you don't achieve that goal, you're going to be pissed off at yourself and you're going to be thinking, why am I such a failure? Why didn't I do it? Well, it's totally unrealistic. That's why. Your willpower to continue then is virtually non existent and you give up. So it's really crucial that we are setting ourselves specific and realistic goals. And I'm going to tell you a really good way to do this shortly. Another thing that often really puts our willpower to the test as creatives is something that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, which you'll probably all be familiar with, especially if you are a creative person. And that is something that's known as the shiny object syndrome. Now, it's a common problem for a lot of us, and that's getting distracted by some new idea or object, but particularly idea for creative people anyway. So, like say you've started work on something, right? You're on track, you're getting it done, your head's down, it's feeling good. And then out of nowhere, something new and exciting pops into your head. And that's it. You just stop what you're doing and then you switch and start working on that. Maybe you see that through, whatever it is, but a lot of the time we start these new things that appear lovely and shiny and exciting and much more interesting than what we're currently working on, but we never actually finish them. We'll get halfway through again and then something else pops into our head or catches our eye. And then we ditch that thing and then start that. And it's like a vicious circle all the time. I mean, to be fair to us, right, I don't think we can actually help it. I think our brains as creatives always have to be on high alert and ready to strike when new ideas come because it's usually how all our work is born, isn't it? Now, I never used to suffer with shiny object syndrome, and I know a lot of people that did, especially when I first started the business. And I was always the one that was really focused and able to achieve whatever I'd set my mind to and get it done. But I must admit, I am falling victim to it in the last 3 to 4 years. So I'm generally quite disciplined when I'm working, and I won't move on to the next project until I've finished the one I'm doing. But lately, I don't know, my mind has just been all over the place while I'm working. And I'm actually finding it harder and harder to concentrate on the task at hand. I mean, I'm blaming the perimenopause or something biological because I definitely didn't have this problem in my 30s when I was running the business. Or maybe it's sleep deprivation from having a kid. I don't know. Like now, For example, I could be working on someone's order from my stationery business, Vintage Tree, or I'll be putting together a resource for my Her Handmade Hustle ladies to help them with their business. So it could be my newsletter or a free help sheet. I can be really engrossing it and I'm enjoying it, and I'm feeling productive. Then all of a sudden, I sort of like just look up and I go, oh, I know. I'm going to decide to design a notepad right now and I'm going to launch a stationery range, which is actually true, by the way, and I am. Anyway, more to come on that at a later date. Or the other day, I was in the middle of working on my Etsy shop. And all of a sudden, I've switched onto Canva and I'm now designing a business planner. But I just couldn't get it out of my head. And the next thing you know, I was on a bloody Zoom call with a book printing company, firing all kinds of questions at this poor woman who had literally just come back to work that day after the Christmas break. I think it was like the 2nd of January, poor cow, honestly. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the business planner is going to be released at some point. I know it is. It's on hold at the moment because I've got work to do. I've got other stuff that take priority. I had to park that up for now. But shiny object syndrome is a massive problem for us creatives, and it often stops us from completing any of our goals. So we really have to try and exercise our willpower when shiny object syndrome strikes, right? We've got to stay focused on the task at hand. Okay, so on the subject of exercising our willpower, there are things that we can do to strengthen this muscle so that it can easily step in when we need it to ensure that we don't give up on our goals. And I'm going to give you some willpower boosting tips now, okay? And you can apply these to anything that you might be struggling with, seeing through to the end. Not just to help you stay on track with your business, but like maybe you are trying to lose some weight or give up smoking or reduce your alcohol intake and get healthy. You can use these practical tips to boost your levels of willpower so that you don't give up. So, the first thing you need to do, and I think it's the most crucial one, is that you need to be setting yourself some SMART goals, okay? And I don't mean clever goals here, I'm talking SMART. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Now, write these down if you can. So, we're going to be going through it now, but write them down. So, next time you set yourself a goal, you're going to check these things off to make sure that your goal meets them all. Because if they do, then you're much more likely to complete the goal. So, like I say, we're going to write a SMART goal together shortly. But first of all, specific. Is it specific? Have you been really clear about what it is? For example, I want to run a successful business versus I want to run a successful business and I'm going to start that by setting up an Etsy shop. All right. That is specific. You're saying how you're going to start that successful business journey. Next, measurable. Can you measure your goal? If you just say, I want to set up an Etsy shop, you need to say how you're going to measure that goal to make sure that you do it. Well, first of all, you're going to start by the setup process, aren't you? You're going to register with Etsy, you're going to add your business information, your bank details, you're going to get your identity verified, all the steps that's required to opening up an Etsy shop. And that's measurable because you'll be able to see when you've completed those steps and you can tick them off. And the next one is achievable. Don't make your goal unrealistic. Like, don't say you're going to have a 100 product Etsy store up and running by the end of week 1. It's not going to happen, right? Instead, maybe say something like, I don't know, I'm going to add 3 new products a week to my Etsy shop. Break it down. You'll get to your 100 products, trust me, but you won't if you put all that pressure on yourself. So keep it real. Relevant, right? Is your goal something that you want and that is going to contribute to the bigger picture for you? So, are you starting your Etsy shop because you ultimately want to be selling enough on there so you can give up your 9 to 5 or at least reduce your hours? Or are you doing it because everyone else seems to have one? So, you feel like you have to as well. And therefore, you're not really that bothered. So, you're only going to be doing it half assed. In fact, you hate selling online. You're actually perfectly happy just attending your usual makers market once a month. Because, you kind of like your 9 to 5 job and you're just doing markets at weekends. It's fine. It works for you. And that's absolutely perfect. You just got to make sure that your goals, whatever they are relevant to what it is you actually want to achieve in the longer term. And the last one is time bound. So you have to put a time scale on a goal for it to have a high chance of completion. So, for example, by May this year, I want to have lost a stone in weight. That would be nice. Or by the summer, I'll have my Etsy shop up and running and I will have my 50 products on there. That is a realistic time scale and you have got an end point to that goal. You need to be committing to a time scale or you're just going to be floating around from one incomplete goal to the next and you're not going to achieve any of them. Right, so, okay, I've told you what a SMART goal is. I've given you a brief overview, but let's write one together right now, okay? So grab a pen, a notepad, and let's write a SMART goal. So I want you to think of something that you really want to achieve this year. Right, let's do it together. I'm going to do it with you. So you can always pause me if you need to as we go along. So for me, I want to have a Her Handmade Hustle stationery range up and running this year. Write yours down. You can keep it as general as you want at this point because we're going to make it smart now. So once you've written it down, the first thing we need to do is make your goal specific. All right, that's the S in SMART. So for me in my stationery range, I'm going to write something like, I want to have a range of notebooks and business planners in my Her Handmade Hustle stationery range. I've specified what I'm wanting to create to make this goal happen. So do that now. Secondly, I need to make this goal measurable. So I'm going to say, I want to have 3 designs of notebooks and 1 business planner in my stationery range. Right, I can measure that, right? I can see when I've got 3 designs made in a notebook and then 1 design in a business planner. That is measurable. So write down now how you are going to measure your goal. Next, we need to make it achievable. That is the A in SMART. Now, mine, to me, already is. So 3 designs of notebooks and 1 design of a planner is achievable. I'm not saying 20 to 30 designs. So I'm pretty happy with that, okay? Next, you're going to want to make sure that your goal is relevant. That's the R in SMART. Does it align with your bigger picture? So for me, with the stationery range, there's 2 angles that I want to get from this, right? So the first is I want to have a creative outlet through Her Handmade Hustle because I still need to design and create as well as mentor. Like it's in my blood. So that's important to me. And the second one is I want to create an additional stream of income. So yes, it's a relevant goal because by designing and selling these notebooks, I'm going to be hitting both of those goals. And finally, I've got to put a time frame on it. All right, the T in SMART, time frame. It's got to be time bound. Like 3 to 6 months is good for me. So have a think about what your time frame is for your goal. So let's look how my goal went now from being, I want to have a stationery range for Her Handmade Hustle to this SMART goal, which now looks like this, okay? I want to start developing a range of stationery for Her Handmade Hustle that consists of 3 different notebooks and 1 business planner. This will allow me to have a creative outlet within this business and an additional stream of income. And I want to give myself 3 months to complete this goal. You see, I've laid it all out there. And just the mere act of making your goal SMART will make it so much more likely to be achieved, trust me. And that way, you won't need to rely on your willpower to pull you through and get you there. Now, as well as making your goals SMART, you also need to make sure that you're tracking their progress and you're not just forgetting about them. You've got to keep a close eye on them. How it's going, if you've made progress, if there's been any setbacks that you've encountered. Now, you can do this yourself if you feel able to by either checking in with yourself every week and having your own little staff meeting. I've done this a few times, actually. I think my next door neighbour saw me talking to myself once through the window. I had to pretend I was on a video call because he just thought, what is she doing? But yeah, I just pretended that I was on a Zoom. But, whether it's having a meeting with yourself or writing things down, Or finding yourself an accountability partner, that's a good one. A colleague or a mentor who's going to check in and see what you're doing and keep you in check. I'll do it. Like my diary, honestly, is full of different people's names who I text on that day to see how they're getting on with something that they're trying to achieve. All right, it might be that they're trying to set up their website. It might be that they're working on a new product range or coming up with a marketing plan for their small business. Sometimes you just need someone there to be accountable. So you actually get that rocket up your arse and get shit done. Now, let me know if you need me to be that person who lights the fuse on that rocket, because I can do that for you. And my ladies will tell you that it works. They've achieved so much more in their business in just 3 months of having me as a mentor than they did in the 3 years prior. Like, it's crazy. The effect of having a person by your side who takes your business as serious as you do and wants to see you succeed as much as you do, it can make a huge difference to achieving those goals. Think about it. And I just want to talk briefly about the role of habits and your environment when it comes to seeing your goals through. All right, because small habits, whether good or bad, can actually make or break willpower and ultimately stop you from achieving your goals. Now, it's crucial, especially as creative people whose brains are firing off in all different directions at the best of times. It's crucial that we create good habits and we surround ourselves with a supportive working environment that doesn't distract us and it helps us stay on track. And that therefore reduces our reliance on our willpower, so we don't need it as much. So you need to be removing distractions. If you know what is going to throw you off and try and lead you astray, get rid of it. So mine, for example, is having my computer open when I'm creating, right? So I'm working on orders and I used to just turn my PC on. Might not even need it, but I just used to turn it on, leave it running in the background with some tunes on, and just get on with doing my orders or making stock. But my seemingly perimenopausal brain can't handle the temptation of that anymore. And I just find myself down in the glue gun and searching out totally irrelevant things that just pop into my head, like when's the next season of The Bear out, which is very important, maybe not relevant, but equally important. Or, how much can I get for that Marco intake, that doll that I've got in my cupboard since 1990? Turns out not that much. I did Google it. But that's what I do, right? So now I know that that's my distraction, having my PC turned on. So if I'm working on a project or something that I have to get done, that I don't need my computer for, I leave it off now. And instead, I'll put on a podcast through my phone, which I'll then leave on the other side of the room too. So I resist the temptation of trying to Google something on there. But at least I can focus better. And there's something about listening to a podcast, maybe that's why you listen to mine, I don't know, but it helps me feel very present and in the moment. It's like mindfulness, isn't it? I can listen to that person speaking and their words and just be committed to that moment. And I get stuff done. I find it quite calming and helpful. Try to think of the right words, really, and how it makes me feel. But you'll understand if you feel the same. It definitely keeps me focused and it definitely reduces the distractions around me. And ultimately, I end up getting done what I set out to do without having to rely on my willpower to stop me from getting sidetracked. So really look at the environment that you're working in, and try to create that supportive environment for yourself. So you might want to declutter your workspace or listen to a podcast while you work towards your goal, removing these distractions so that you can reduce the reliance on your willpower to help you achieve your goals. So if there's one thing that you take away from today's episode, please let it be this, okay? The only way to ensure long-term success for you and your business is to exercise your willpower when it matters. Right? You can help yourself and you can strengthen that willpower muscle by not overusing it and tiring it out. Because if you do this, you will end up giving up because you'll have nothing left at the end of the day. All your mental energy will be gone and you'll just give up. Help yourself out, help your mindset out, and do the things that are going to boost your willpower and feed it, and making it stronger and not weaker. Reducing your distractions, setting yourself smart goals, creating a supportive environment. Celebrate your small wins and the incremental progress, because All these things will help your willpower, and it will feed it. Feed it all the good stuff, the stuff that makes it function as it should for you. These things are like the superfoods to your willpower, like your broccoli, kale, your whole grains, right? Feed it well. And if you can practice and implement some of the willpower boosting things that we've talked about in today's episode, you're going to notice a difference in your levels of self control, in your goal achievements, and ultimately in your long term successes. Because willpower is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. Now, I'm going to finish on a quote that I absolutely love. And I think it sums up the main message of this episode, really. And it's by someone called Philip Cooper. Now, it's a pretty normal name. It's not particularly lending itself to the image of a great philosopher, is it? Anyway, Philip said, to assert your willpower is to simply make up your mind that you want something and then refuse to be put off. And it's true. Whatever your situation is, whatever you've been thinking of while you've been listening to me today, you will no doubt have at least one goal in your life that you want to achieve before you die. Well, here's what I want to say to you about it. Don't give up on it. Ever. Because your future self depends on it. And on that note, I'm going to sign off for this week. Thank you for listening. And as always, if you're a creative woman who needs a little help shaking off those January blues and finding your business mojo again, drop me an email. I know I can help you. Okay. You can find my contact details on my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, and you follow me on Instagram at herhandmadehustle. Connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. So enjoy the rest of your week, whatever you're up to, and I will see you next time for another episode of the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast.